It's now time for the Mike Wagner Show, powered by Sonic Web Studios. Visit online at sonicwebstudios.com for all your needs. The Mike Wagner Show can be heard on Spreaker, Spotify, iHeartRadio, YouTube, iTunes, Anchor FM, Radio Public, and the MikeWagnerShow.com. Mike brings you great guests and interesting people from all across the globe. So sit back, relax, and enjoy another great episode of the Mike Wagner Show.
From the Mike Wagner Show, powered by Sonic Web Studios. Visit online at sonicwebstudios.com for all you need. Looking at a professional website without breaking your budget? Sonic Web Studios is the answer. Sonic Web Studios offers fast, affordable custom web designs at below the competition rate. Call today at 1-800-303-3960. That's 1-800-303-3960. Or email to support@sonicwebstudios.com. Mention the Mike Wagner Show. Get 10% off your first order. Sonic Web Studios. Take your image to the next level. Also, the Mike Wagner Show can be heard on the MikeWagnerShow.com. You can check our Facebook page at facebook.com/the Mike Wagner Show. You can download and listen on Facebook, SoundCloud, Spreaker, Spotify, and iHeartRadio, and over 35 podcast platforms, including iTunes, Google Play, Apple, and more. Take the Mike Wagner Show with you on any mobile device. Subscribe to the Mike Wagner Show on the YouTube channel. Also follow the Mike Wagner Show on Instagram and Twitter today. We're here with a New York City legend, TV host, writer, and producer. Has a new book out called From the Project to Profiles, a memoir. He's the president of Quest Media Entertainment. He got his start at WNYW TV in New York, graduate of Missouri Valley College out in Marshall, Missouri, and also been an Emmy Award winner for pro-life versus pro-choice, domestic violence, and does a lot of work. He's very famous in New York City. So live, ladies and gentlemen, from his wonderful office somewhere in New York City with his friend over there, the Masked Bandit, ladies and gentlemen, popular TV host, Mickey Burns. Mickey, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Thanks for joining us today.
And Mike Wagner, thanks for having me on your show. It's an honor and a pleasure.
And it's an honor to have you on as a TV host and legend in New York City. So I should be the one that's honored, too. So we have that. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Welcome to my home on Staten Island, New York, the other side of the Staten Island Ferry.
Yes, there you go. And, of course, this is a new norm these days, having a home studio like this. And, of course, you're free to dress up however you like. So I'm working on building a library, but right now I have a trophy case full of coffee mugs and beer mugs and everything else. So that's my trophy case right now as my awards in broadcasting, coffee mugs.
Interesting you should say that because, you know, with the show that I host in New York City, it's called Profiles. And we just celebrated our 500th episode.
Oh, congratulations.
Over a 20-year period. The reason I mention it is because the way I'm dressed today, I wore a suit and a tie for all 500 episodes.
Wow.
So it's a pleasure being in a sweatsuit.
It sounds like it as well, too. And, of course, you got that memoir as well, too. We'll talk more about that. And, of course, you've been a TV host, writer, producer for all those years in New York City, president of Quest Media Entertainment. And before we get into all that, tell exactly how you got started.
Yeah, well, you know, I got started, I guess, an unlikely way in that when I was going to college at Missouri Valley, I always wanted to get into broadcasting right from the start. However, a lot of people may not understand this, but it was BC, and BC stands for before cable.
Before cable, I was just going to say that or something similar.
Sure, the opportunity, and I was I went to college on a football scholarship to Missouri Valley College. And I thought a natural progression would be to come out and be a sportscaster. But the opportunities were minimal because most of the sportscasters you had NBC, CBS, ABC. That was pretty much it. You know, there was no ESPN. There was no Golf Channel. There was no Sci-Fi Channel. It was like 3 channels. And most of the sportscasters were the ex-pro football players and pro baseball players. So I decided what I would do was come back and teach and coach, which I did for a number of years. You're going to love this, Mike. I played golf with a bunch of guys that worked at Channel 5 or Fox Television in New York City.
Really? Amazing.
And one day as we're playing golf, they said, Mickey, how would you like to come up and sub as a sound man on the news crews? Because I had extensive knowledge in sound equipment, because I had a band on the side. And I was doing a lot of work with the band. I love music. So I went up there on a whim. And the first day I was up at Fox, I was the sound man on the news crew. And the first thing we were assigned to was go to City Hall. Mayor Koch is giving a press conference, which we did, and that was very exciting. And then after that, they said break for lunch and then go up to Yankee Stadium on the field and get sound bites with the players. And I said, this business is the best business there could possibly be. And I got the bug, and they liked me. You know, it's a very personality-driven business. You know, you got to get along with everyone because there's a lot of stress and pressure. So I started subbing, and that led, you know, from one day they said, can you work the rest of the week? And then it went 2 weeks. And to make a long story short, that was the start of my broadcasting career. I got the bug. I learned everything I could learn from the best in New York City. Every day I was a sponge to what was going on. And then Rupert Murdoch took over Fox. Do you remember when he did that? That was 90, something like that. And the first thing he did was cut out overtime.
Oh.
He said no more overtime. So most of the camera guys were making, at that time, $110,000 a year. So it was cut in half because there was no overtime. So many of them couldn't pay their mortgage. We say we used to making $110,000, now they're making $50,000. So they said we should form our own production company and moonlight on the side. And we did. So 4 of us created a company called Group 4 Productions, and that's when they said, Mickey, you're going to be the host because that's what you really want to do. So I became the host. We did a deal with Time Warner, and I was the host of this news magazine called Special Edition. And that was 25 years ago.
Wow, that was something. And you can tell us more about that as well, too. And you also had some really some interesting as well, too. You had the Mercury Report and plus Special Edition. And you also were an Emmy winner, too, Pro-Life versus Pro-Choice and Domestic Violence and more. And you can tell about some of the awards as well, too. It sounds like you really got yourself involved and really won a lot here.
Yeah, I can tell you when I was at Fox, we were doing the domestic violence special. And one night they said, Mickey, you're going to be on it. You're going to do sound with Richie Murphy, who was the camera guy. And I was thrilled. And so Richie, he was in charge of the crew. He said, Mickey, meet us at the studio. We're going to North Plainfield, New Jersey, and we're going to sit in a police station until a domestic violence call comes in. And there's a moral to this story I'm going to say and tell you. So I said, you know, we're going to be sitting all night at this station. We're not going to get any calls. We were there like 3 minutes. The phone rings, domestic violence call. The 2 cops that we're mirroring for the day say, let's go. You know, let's go. Okay, we're sitting in the back of the squad car. And as we're leaving, he said, but be careful because the wife said that he's violent and he's got a gun and a knife.
Oh, boy.
So now this is right. So I'm saying to Richie, I said, if we get killed or hurt on this, how much do we get? He said, I think you get $100,000 if you get killed on the job, your wife. I said, yeah, but you're dead. So anyway, we pull up to the house. And as we do, the wife comes running out. He's got a gun. He's going to kill me. And oh my God! And the house looked like the Munsters house, an old house from way back, needed a lot of work, and pitch black.
Oh my goodness!
So the cop said, stay right behind us. So they go in with their guns drawn, and we can't find them. And there's no light. All they have is flashlights. And then we're walking up the stairs. They noticed the second floor window was open about a foot. They said maybe he jumped out. It was February. So we came back down, went around the back, and they're looking in the bushes. There were leaves and tires, and it was like a junkyard in the back. So Richie and I are standing right in the middle of the yard, and the cops with the flashlights are looking in the hedges, and I'm looking at the building. And I noticed like the tip of a sneaker on the second floor ledge. So I said to Richie, I said, shine your light up on that second floor ledge. See what that is. And as he does, he scans, and it's the guy leaning up on the edge, you just about can see him. But when the light gets on him, you can see his eyes. And with that, the police turn around and say, there he is. And they come running towards us. Now, we haven't moved. We're right in the middle of the yard. We haven't moved yet. This perpetrator leaps off the second floor like Spider-Man.
Holy cow.
Right onto the two cops. And they wrestle him to the ground, and we still haven't moved. We're still in the same spot. Everything is happening around us. And they get him, they handcuff him. We're filming the whole thing, you know? And then they put him in the back of the car. We follow him to the police station. They book him, and they put him into the jail cell. And when the jail cell closes, you can hear commercial. You know, you couldn't have planned it. I mean, it was like a movie. Make a long story short, that's the one that won an Emmy, of which I was a part of it as a sound man. And then people on the West Coast saw that special, and that was the seedling for the show Cops.
Wow, I did not know that.
I have that in my book because they saw that and they said, you know, that's a great idea. Why don't we do a show and just follow the cops around all the time? But they were motivated and inspired by that part in the domestic violence Emmy-winning special.
That was something, and we'll talk more about your book from the projects of profiles and memoir. But first, listen to the Mike Wagner Show at the MikeWagnerShow.com, powered by Sonic Web Studios. Visit online at SonicWebStudios.com for all your needs. Looking for a professional website without breaking your budget? Sonic Web Studios is the answer. Sonic Web Studios offers fast, affordable custom web designs at below the competition way. Call today at 1-800-303-3960. That's 1-800-303-3960. Or email to support@SonicWebStudios.com. Mention the Mike Wagner Show. Get 10% off your first order. Sonic Web Studios. Take your image to the next level. Also, the Mike Wagner Show can be heard on the MikeWagnerShow.com. You can check our Facebook page at Facebook.com/The Mike Wagner Show. You can download and listen on Facebook, SoundCloud, Spreaker, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. And over 35 podcast platforms. Take the Mike Wagner Show with you on any mobile device. Subscribe to the Mike Wagner Show on the YouTube channel. And follow the Mike Wagner Show on Instagram and Twitter today. We're here in New York City. TV host, writer, producer Mickey Burns here on the Mike Wagner Show. He's got a new book called From the Projects or Profiles and Memoir. And tell us more about this book that's going to be available very soon.
Well, the book is available now. It's available on Barnes & Noble, Amazon, Walmart.com, all the websites. And it's been doing really well. I was motivated and inspired to write the book when I had Chuck Barris on the show.
Oh, really?
Chuck Barris was the host of The Gong Show.
Mm-hmm.
He was the creator of the Newlywed Game and the Dating Game back in the 70s.
I remember Chuck Barris. Yeah, the Gong Show. Oh, my gosh. They have like the Dancing Gene or something like that? Or
yeah, Gene the Dancing Machine.
That's it, Gene Dancing Machine. That's what I looked forward to when it came to the Gong Show. I loved it.
And after he was left broadcasting, he became a prolific author. So he was on Profiles as a guest to promote one of his books. And in the middle of the interview, he stopped the interview with me, and he said, you know, Mickey, I just want to say, you have a book in you. Because he was a prolific author, you know. And I said, Chuck, I'd never have the time to write a book. And he said, you have so many stories to tell with all these episodes you've done with these iconic people, you know. And I said, I'll never be able to do it. He said, take my advice, do it, and start by writing 1 page a day. He said, at the end of the year, you got your book.
Huh, amazing.
And I kept going and saying, you know, Chuck may have something. So I started doing it. I couldn't write the 1 page, though, Mike. You know, once I start writing, you're writing clusters, 10 pages, 12 pages. But I got it done, and I credit Chuck for it.
That is amazing. I think I should do something like this, too. Yeah. You just gave me a great idea. And when I do write a book like this, I will definitely credit you and Chuck Barris. It's like you just gave me and everybody an idea.
Right. So, from the projects, the profiles chronicles basically my life because I grew up in the South Beach projects, housing projects in New York City. And there were a lot of life lessons to be learned there. But the goal of everyone living there was always, how do you get out? Economically, how do you move to the next level? And, my key and was sports, and I write about it in the book how that transpired. But the book itself, and Chuck passed away a few years ago, and I'm going to share this with you too. At the last chapter in the book is I asked every guest of my 500 episodes, every guest, what do you hope your legacy will be? And Chuck, without hesitation, said, I want it written on my tombstone, gonged at last.
Gonged at last. I love it.
He passed away a few years ago, and I read in the New York Times that's exactly what's on his tombstone. so he got his wish.
And of course, my question is, what do you want on your tombstone?
Oh man, that is a tough question. That he was a winner.
Ah, that's a good one. You know, I want on my tombstone cheese, sausage, pepperoni, and onion.
Very good. But so we got this book done, and it's doing well. And I include a lot of stories of my most memorable stories. Of my guest over 500 episodes. Sometimes the best stories are before the interview and after the interview, not necessarily during the interview. Are you a sport? I know you're a sports fan because I see the Green Bay Packers and back. I had Joe Montana as a guest.
Interesting.
Yeah, but again, what I remember most about the interview was something that happened before the interview. That's what's most memorable. And what happened was he was in New Jersey at a memorabilia convention, signing stuff. So they said, oh, he'll do the interview with you the night before in his hotel suite. But get here at 4:30, he'll be here at 5:45. So we set up the cameras, the lights. He had a big suite. And then they put out a nice spread of cold cuts. And we said, man, they're really nice. They're nice people, At exactly 5:45, Joe Montana walks in with his publicist and his manager. And the first thing I see is the manager looking straight at me, going like this. He wants to talk to me. I said, what? Did I do something wrong? So I go over, he pulls me in the corner, and the first thing he looks me straight in the eye and says, who ate Joe's dinner?
What? Who ate Joe's dinner? Oh, my gosh.
Well, we thought cold cuts were for us. We didn't realize that was Joe's dinner. So the way I felt like a kid with his hand caught in a cookie jar, So the first thing I said to Joe Montana before we started our interview was, Joe, I got to apologize for eating your food. And he started laughing. He said, I would never eat that garbage. He said, I'm going out to an Italian restaurant as soon as this interview is over. So he let me off the hook, Mike.
Oh my gosh!
And that's what I remember about the interview. I don't remember the interview per se, but I remember what happened before it.
I guess lesson learned is don't give Joe Montana any pregame food like cold cuts or from a store. Let him go to a restaurant before or after the interview.
Right, and never assume anything.
Yes, that's right.
And there's other stories like that, because I tell people, they say, what's your most memorable? I said, sometimes the most memorable is after the interview or before it, like with Joe. But this book now is leading to a second book. Okay, now we're going to do a coffee table book to follow up with from the projects to profiles, and it's going to be called Inside Celebrity Profiles. And it's going to be a coffee table book. Why this happened, Eileen Shapiro, who is my publicist, and Eileen, wonderful.
Uh-huh.
I know she represents people that do coffee table books. And she said, Mickey, you might want to consider doing a coffee table book with all of your famous celebrities over the last 20 years, you know? So I called up my photographer. Mike, you're going to love this, right? And I said to him, Robert, he's been with me 20 years. How many photos do you have in your computer from the 20 years you've been covering the Profiles TV series? He said, I have no idea. Let me look. He comes back 10 minutes later. He says, I have 13,542 photos.
Wow.
I said, is that enough to do a coffee table book? I think so.
I thought I was going to say no.
Right. So now we have to go through 13,000 photos and put together. You have to write the blurbs and write, you know. But that the publisher has already given us the go ahead to do it. So now we're on our second book. Thank you, Mr. Barris.
Thank you, Mr. Barris. Interesting.
Yes. And that's it.
Holy cow.
13,000 photos we got to go through.
Wow. I don't know if I could go through 13,000. I don't know if you can go through maybe 100 of myself. And I'm like, which ones will break that camera most likely?
Yeah, what we do is when we have a guest, we get them from when they're coming out of the limousine, coming to the studio. Then we do them on the set. After the set, we usually have cake and coffee for them. So there's a social event. And then we follow them right up Broadway on the street and take pictures. So that's why we have 13,000 of them. We've always chronicled our show.
That is amazing, too. And we'll talk more about the book in just a minute. But first, listen to The Mike Wagner Show at themikewagnershow.com, powered by Sonic Web Studios. Visit online at sonicwebstudios.com for all your needs. Looking at a professional website without breaking your budget? Sonic Web Studios is the answer. Sonic Web Studios offers fast, affordable custom web designs that blow the competition away. Call today at 1-800-303-3960. That's 1-800-303-3960. Or email to support@sonicwebstudios.com. Mention The Mike Wagner Show. Get 10% off your first order. Sonic Web Studios, take your image to the next level. Also, The Mike Wagner Show can be heard on themikewagnershow.com. You can check our Facebook page at facebook.com/The Mike Wagner Show. You can download and listen on Facebook, SoundCloud, Spreaker, Spotify, and iHeartRadio, and over 35 podcast platforms, including iTunes, Google Play, and Apple. And take The Mike Wagner Show with you on any mobile device. Subscribe to The Mike Wagner Show on the YouTube channel. Also, follow The Mike Wagner Show on Instagram and Twitter today. We're here with TV host, writer, producer Mickey Burns from New York City. We talked about his new book, From the Projects of Profiles and Memoir. Also, a celebrity interview show, Profiles, produced in Times Square. Interviewed over 500 celebrities. And I wasn't sure if I caught this, but who was your 500th celebrity that you just interviewed?
I believe the 500, you're going to be surprised again. That would be me.
Amazing.
What we did, there was a legendary talk show host in New York. His name is Bill Boggs.
Uh-huh.
And he had a show back on Fox when I was a camera guy there. And he interviewed Frank Sinatra, Sammy Davis. I mean, he interviewed them all. And he retired from doing that back in the mid-'80s. But I brought him out of retirement, and he served as the guest host for the 500th episode. And he interviewed me about my best memories of the 500 episodes. And it turned great.
Amazing, too. And, of course, you had Smokey Robinson, Deepak Chopra, Candy Burris, George Foreman, Kenny G, Mario Lopez, Tony Orlando, one of my favorites, Missy Copeland, and maybe tell us about some of the guys. And, of course, probably your favorite stories as well, too, especially Tony Orlando. Well,
Tony Orlando is one of my favorites. Besides being a tremendous star, he's the nicest guy. I mean, and we've grown to be good friends. When I was writing the book, I called him up, said, Tony, I'd like you to write a blurb for my book. And in my email, within 10 minutes, I had my blurb.
Nice.
I mean, he's just the best. And he's appeared on my show 2 times, and we've created 3 episodes out of the two appearances.
Wow, amazing.
Each time he came on, he said, Mickey, I want to give you something that I've never told anyone before. And I said, I appreciate it, Tony. Go ahead. He said, when I was doing my first episode on CBS, Jackie Gleason was my guest. During rehearsal, my backup group, Dawn, Tony Orlando, and Dawn were rehearsing on the stage, and Jackie Gleason made a racial slur.
Oh my!
And he said, I wouldn't let it get past me. I said, Jackie, you need to apologize to me and to the girls for what you just said. Jackie Gleason said, are you kidding me? You're a snot-nosed kid. I'm the biggest star in television, and stormed out of the studios on Times Square. With that, the executives at CBS said, Tony, what did you just do? You had the biggest star on television for your first premiere show, and now you lost him, and it's tonight, and we don't have anybody to replace him. What are we going to do? He said, I don't know, but I couldn't get past what he said. Wow. So now Tony goes to his dressing room as the CBS executives scamper around and try to replace Jackie Gleason.
Oh, my goodness.
And it's like 2 hours before his first show on CBS, first taping. And all of a sudden, there's a knock on the door, and it's Jackie Gleason. Tony? Yes, Mr. Gleason? Is this my script? He said, yes, it is, Mr. Gleason. He hands it to Tony. He said, turn to the first page. Tony turns to the first page. He said, read it. It says, I apologize, Jackie Gleason.
Oh, my goodness. Wow.
And he said he did the show. And of course, his show was great. And he said they became close friends. And before every show he ever did on CBS, Jackie Gleason called him before wishing him good luck.
Oh, wow. Fantastic guy. And
he stood up, the biggest star of the time.
And of course, as they say, he got him right on the kisser.
He did. And, it took a lot of courage and character to stand up to Jackie Gleason at that time.
That is amazing. It's like, I don't know if I could do that, to be honest with you. I'd be like, oh, no.
But that's Tony Orlando. That's Tony Orlando.
And of course, as I mentioned about Smokey Robinson as well, too, and maybe some of the sports stars he had on, like for example, Joe Namath or anybody from the Yankees, like Reggie Jackson, or, say like from the Rangers or anybody like that.
Right. Well, I would like to Smokey Robinson also was one of my favorites. And, the week before we were having him on the show, he's not easy to get as a guest. He's written over 400 songs, as you know. And his publicist kept saying to me, Mickey, you got 24 minutes, not a minute more. Before the interview, I had read that he's a golfer like I am and that he was struggling with his putter.
Oh, wow.
The crew got together, chipped in, and bought him a putter.
Mm-hmm.
So before we started the interview, I said, Smokey, before we start, we want to present you with this putter because we understand you're struggling and this might help you a little bit. He was so touched that we gave him this new Odyssey putter. He said, I've been in this business 50 years. I'm lucky to get a cup of coffee. He said, I am so touched and so thrilled at your generosity. But he said, the putters cost about $120,
Mm-hmm.
So now we go into the interview. And boy, did he perk up after that, too. It was almost like he felt he had a responsibility to give me this great interview because we gave him the putter. That was not our intention, but I could feel it coming from him. He was trying extra hard. So now, around the 20-minute mark, out of the corner of my eye, I see his publicist going like this to me.
Uh-huh.
Which meant, you're 20 minutes, 24 minutes, we're out of here. He's got other interviews. And he keeps doing this, right? Also out of the corner of his eye, Smokey sees him doing this as well. And he turns to him and says, his name was Tony. He said, Tony, sit down. I'm talking to my brother Mickey. And I'll tell you when we're finished.
That was good. I love it.
So Tony goes and sits down like a little mouse. And we went on for 45 minutes, so it's 50 minutes, and did a two-parter from, and both of them won Telly Awards. So
wow.
Goes to show you that's what I remember about. He was so thrilled about the putter that we ended up doubling the 24 minutes, getting 2 episodes and 2 awards from that interview.
And let me guess, he had a great golf game after that.
Well, he never I said, if it doesn't work, send it back. but he never did. So he must be doing pretty good with it.
It sounds like it. And of course, people talk about golf and everything else. It's like, I used to golf myself. And I guess the big question is, it's like, since you golf, you mentioned, it's like, what's your normal par?
Well, I would say I'm about a 10 handicap, 10 over par. And I could do better if I practice, but I really don't have the time to do so. Golfing is practice. You need to short game. I had Kenny G on the show. He's a very good golfer, almost scratch.
Interesting.
He said, when I do practice, I practice my short game, because that's where you save the strokes, chipping and putting. And that's that you need to practice. But I do have one other story I think you'll enjoy. Remember Sally Kellerman?
I remember Sally Kellerman, yes. She
was in MASH.
Uh-huh.
And then she was Rodney Dangerfield, which I love that movie. Back to School with Rodney Dangerfield, who I love.
Oh, I remember that.
She was a professor and his love interest in that movie. So Sally Kellerman, and I don't know how his name came up, but during the interview with Sally Kellerman, she said, many years ago, Harrison Ford worked for me. And I said, well, what do you mean he worked for you? He said, yeah, before he could get a role in anything, he was moonlighting as a carpenter. I don't even know.
My goodness.
I don't even know how this came up, right? And what he was doing was I hired him to build a daybed hutch in my den. I said, oh, that's interesting. And he said, one day he came in, he said, Sally, I think I got this role in this some Star Wars movie. And Sally was saying, she said, I was saying to myself, it's probably some bad B movie at the time, And she said, boy, was I wrong, because that catapulted his career, And then she looked at me and she said, it's a good thing he made it in the movies, because the daybed hutch he built for me was horrible, and it was a foot shorter than it was supposed to be.
Oh, my goodness.
So in my book I write, needless to say, a year after that, Harrison Ford retired from the carpentry business.
Oh, my goodness. There was a story I read, too, where Harrison Ford actually got fired as assistant manager in Chicago over to Crate and Barrel, and somebody asked him, what'd you do with Crate and Barrel? He goes, I don't know. You sell Crate and Barrels. And why'd you get fired? I don't know. I came back from lunch, although I was a salary assistant manager. So some interesting stories. And you talked about Star Wars. And I remember this. I went with a friend of mine who I grew up with, and it was between King Kong and Star Wars. And we thought King Kong was a better movie than Star Wars. And boy, were we wrong.
Oh, my goodness. So you went to see the other one. So,
yes.
So, these stories are just, every interview has a story that sticks with you forever. You never forget it. And that was one. And it had nothing to do with Sally Kellerman, really. It was all about Harrison Ford. He's not a very good pilot either, by the way.
And what else is he not good at?
He's a good actor.
Yes, that's probably the best thing, too. And you also had, I just want to mention as well, too, Isaac Hayes, one of my favorites, Neil Sedaka, a classic, Danny Glover from I'm trying to remember, Ben Vereen, Dick Cavett, and more, and George Foreman, of all people. You can just tell us about some of those.
Yeah, well, George Foreman, by the time I had him, he was retired. But what he did tell me during the interview, which I was a little surprised, was when he fought Muhammad Ali, the Rumble in the Jungle.
Mm-hmm.
That was a huge event, worldwide event. But he said that he thought he was drugged during the fight by his own people. He said there was something in the water, and it was making him his vision blurry, and he didn't feel himself, and he felt that somebody in his corner was doing something they weren't supposed to do, and got paid to do so, and that's what he feels anyway. But George Foreman, by that point, he said, but he got beat good and bad. He said he was beating Muhammad Ali pillar to post. But he kind of wore him down a little bit. He said he got tired. And then he said Muhammad woke up and knocked him out. But by the time he was on my show, I think that was our 200th episode. He was a businessman, Mike, very successful pitch man for Midas, Invent Help, all these big companies. And he did say something. He's got 7 sons, by the way. All named George.
Amazing.
You know that? And you know, people from the grill, the George Foreman grill, they approached him and wanted to use his name. So at the time, he didn't know a lot about business, and they said, you know, George, what do you want? You know, they meant money. And he said, well, you know, I have 7 kids. Can I have 7 of these grills for my kids? Yeah, he didn't think he was going to get money. He thought he was just going to get the grills. He said, then I got a check in the mail for $250,000 6 months later. He said, this is a good thing, you know. but he did say, you know, he's very, very smart man in business. And he said to me, Mickey, you know, a good business deal isn't a good one unless both parties are happy. And that's good advice. You know, business is not one-sided. If both people aren't happy, it's very unlikely that's going to work.
And I think that's very important, too. Of course, you being the TV hosting business as well, too. Who are some of my favorite TV hosts growing up?
Well, Dick Cavett, you know, and I had him on the show. I used to like Tom Snyder. Remember Tom?
I remember Tom Snyder, yes.
And of course, Johnny Carson. How can you not like Johnny Carson?
Oh, who loves Johnny Carson when he's himself? I mean, I interviewed a guy actually that provided animals for the Tonight Show, and he was very good with animals, I have to say. It's like, and the trick is, don't look at those things or play with them before you go on. It's like, you just play with them on stage right away.
And I had Joan Rivers on twice, and she was an Emmy-winning talk show host. She had her own show daytime.
Mm-hmm.
I had David Brenner, the comedian, on, and he was Johnny Carson's favorite substitute when he was on vacation. But Dick Cavett, I would say, is on the top of my list. So to have him on the show was a thrill, and he treated me with such respect. And I knew I was way over my head, but he never let me feel that way. And, you know, he said, you know, Mick, you're never going to make it in the business. You got to come from Nebraska.
Really?
As Johnny Carson, and he did. And yeah.
You know, something that kind of makes me think maybe I should have settled in Nebraska and be more subtle as well, too. If Warren Buffett can be really subtle in Nebraska, so can many of us.
Yes. He said he first met Johnny Carson when he was a teenager, and Johnny was doing magic tricks in the church basement. And that's when he first met him. But they were both from Nebraska, and they both evolved into 2 of the biggest talk show hosts of all time.
Wow. How often do you see that? 2 soon-to-be famous people getting together in a church basement. How do you like that?
Yeah.
Wow. Just made me think of the story about John Lennon and Paul McCartney meeting at a church event.
Yes.
You know, how you like that? And, of course, you know, I guess other stories is 2 soon-to-be famous people meeting at another church event or something similar. You never know. You never know.
So that was his story, you know. And he was, you know, Dick Cavett was really smart, you know. And that's another thing. I've interviewed many intellectuals, and you know, you always go into these such as Deepak Chopra, such as Dick Cavett, such as Dr. Maya Angelou, and you go into these interviews and you hope that you can hold your own and not embarrass yourself. And still come out with a compelling interview. That's the goal.
And I think that's very compelling as well, too. And it feels like it's an honor for me to have you on my show as well, too. It's like, it feels like, although I'm up in Bismarck, North Dakota, and growing up in Chicago, being a cheesehead, as you can tell by my pants up here, it's like, it is like an honor for me to be interviewing you on my show. I have to say that. It's like, I should be the one that goes like this.
Thank you so much. I'm flattered. I'm really flattered.
Oh, that's great as well, too. And there's one thing I forgot to ask you as well, too. Who are some other favorite celebrities and singers growing up as well, too, before you got into TV and radio?
Well, that's, you know, I liked Elvis. I guess everyone did. I loved Tom Jones. Loved Engelbert Humperdinck. Loved the Beatles. I had Engelbert Humperdinck on the phone on the show not too long ago. And what a gentleman he is, and what a nice man he is, you know. But he had written his autobiography, and in it, he said he had made love to 3,000 women.
Wow,
so
3,000.
Well, that's what he wrote. So during the interview, I said, "Should I be so bold to ask him if this is accurate?" And I said, he'll be okay with it. So, Engelbert, in your autobiography, you said you made love to 3,000 women. Is that accurate? And he laughed and he said, "Let me put it to you this way: less work for my wife."
I get it.
I'll never forget that.
Oh my goodness.
And Tom Jones, I also was quite a ladies' man, as we all know. And I was backstage with him as I was working at Fox at the time, and he invited myself and the anchor man to come backstage before the concert. And he's really very shy in person, like the persona that he shows on stage. And I said to him, you know, and I realized he works like 325 dates a year. And I said, "You work so hard. You don't have to. Why do you do it?" And he looked me straight in the eye and he said, "You know, there's going to be a day when those seats are not going to be filled up." And he said, "I realize that. So until that happens, every performance, every day I have a chance to do this, I'm going to give everything I have." Because I realize how fortunate, how lucky I am, and how fortunate I am to have the gift that God gave me. Today he's 80 years old. He's still doing it.
That is amazing. And I guess the question I've been wanting to ask is, like, when the ladies throw their lingerie up on stage, you know, how they adore Tom Jones. It's like, what does he do with all that after the show?
You know, I should have asked him that, and I didn't. But you'd be surprised how humble he is and how shy he is off stage. He's a nice man, and I think that's been the key to his longevity. People just love him. You know, he's just a nice guy. He deserves all his success, but I don't know what he does with all the keys and underwear. I had Bobby Rydell. You remember Bobby Rydell?
Yes, I do.
He was a teen idol, like Tom Jones, almost. I would, later on. And he said the same thing. He said, "You know, Mickey, you know, when I was young as a teen idol, they used to throw their panties, their room keys at me." He said, "Today, I'm 80 years old. Now they throw Depends."
Oh my goodness. Oh my gosh.
And I just had him on recently. I think it was his 70th birthday, 75th birthday, and we had a big party for him in Times Square. And you know, but what a great interview he was. Oh, nicest guy in the world.
That is amazing. And what's another celebrity that you had that really stood out to you? You know, before we wrap up the Mike Wagner Show, definitely love to have you back on and talk more, and another book and everything else.
Well, you remember Dion from Dion and the Belmonts with the song "Run Around Sue," The Wanderer. Mm-hmm. Well, he was on when he was like not a teenager, but 18, 19. He was on a tour in the Midwest with Buddy Holly and Richie Valens, La Bamba. And he said they were going from town to town in Iowa, Nebraska. In the middle of February, it's freezing cold, and the heater on the bus broke down.
Oh, I read that. Yes. Oh, my gosh.
So they all started getting sick. So Richie Valens went ahead and tried to charter a plane to the next venue so they could get there, get some rest, and get better because they were all getting sick. So he did, and then he approached Dion, and he said, "Dion, would you like to join us on the flight? We got 4 seats. We got 1 seat available." And Dion said, "Well, Richie, how much?" And he said, $36 a piece. This was 1959, the day that you died, right? Mm-hmm. And Dion thought, and he said, "I pass." And Richie said to him, "Why would you pass? Well, you're getting sick on the bus. We'll be there in an hour." He said, "Because my mother in the Bronx, her rent for the month is $36.
Wow.
If I took this flight and she found out, she would never forgive me for the indulgence."
Oh, my goodness.
He went back on the bus. They went on the plane. Richie Valens and the Big Bopper, and there was one other.
Buddy Holly?
Buddy Holly. And right after takeoff, they crashed. All on board were killed. Dion, with a tear in his eye, said to me, "Mickey, you know something? If Richie would have said $32 or even $45, I would have taken that flight with them. But because it was $36, my mother's rent, that's the reason I passed."
It sounds like his mom was looking after him as well, too. And I remember that story. And, of course, Waylon Jennings was a guitarist back then, too. And imagine if he had got on the plane. I was like, wow. And he cringes over that story all the time, Waylon Jennings.
And today, Dion is almost 80 years old, living in Florida, performs all over the country. Numbers mean a lot. But like you say, I think his mother had something to do with that. I agree with you, Mike.
Mm-hmm. That's right as well, too. And, of course, we're here with TV host, writer, producer Mickey Burns on the Mike Wagner Show. Big thank you for your time. You've been fantastic. And, of course, who do you consider biggest influence in your career?
I would say, again, Dick Cavett, because he raised the bar so high. And I think his conversation with his guests was intelligent conversation, something you don't see a lot of today. And I tried to tailor my career and my persona in the same vein. Respect and intelligent conversation with iconic celebrities.
Mm-hmm. And not to say this, ain't that the truth? And I'll tell you why off the air as well. And what's the best advice you can give to anybody at this point?
I think that's a good question, and I often ask my guests the same question. I think the best advice that I could give is never give up and never take no for an answer, because all you need is one yes to move forward on your dream.
Mm-hmm. And that's so true. Once again, Mickey Burns, a big thank you for your time. You've been fantastic talking to a legend like you. Looking forward to having you again, definitely sometime soon in 2020. And tell us about your upcoming projects. What's your website? How do people contact you? Where can people purchase your book, From the Projects or Profiles, a memoir?
Very good. Well, the book, From the Projects, the Profiles, is easy to find. Just go to barnesandnoble.com, walmart.com, amazon.com, and you'll see From the Projects, the Profiles, a memoir by Mickey Burns, and it'll be there, and you'll have it in a couple of days. As far as our show, NYC Media is the network in New York that we produce the show on. You can go to their website, NYC Media, search down the television shows on the network. You'll see Profiles, and 12 or 14 of our most recent shows in their entirety you can view there. Our older shows, most of them are on YouTube. We run like 8 to 10 minute clips on there. Just go to Profiles with Mickey Burns, and there must be 100 of them there. And or you can go to Amazon and buy at least 200 or 300 of our episodes.
We're looking forward to as well. Once again, Mickey Burns, a big thank you for your time. You've been more than fantastic. You've been stupendous. Looking forward to having you again soon. Do us a favor, keep this up to date. Definitely love to have back on in 2020 and beyond. And you've been fantastic. Keep us up to date.
Mike, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much. Stay safe.
Thanks for listening to The Mike Wagner Show, powered by Sonic Web Studios. Visit online at sonicwebstudios.com for all your needs. The Mike Wagner Show can be heard on Spreaker, Spotify, iHeartRadio, iTunes, YouTube, Anchor FM, Radio Public, and themikewagnershow.com. Please support our program with your donations at themikewagnershow.com. Join us again next time for another great episode of The Mike Wagner Show.